Hi students, nice to see you. Let me see if I can show you some slides here. Screen desktop. Hang on, hang with me. I'm trying to open a PowerPoint for you. Almost there, almost there. All right, so our talk today is going to be on latitude and longitude. And I know probably a lot of you feel like you know everything about latitude and longitude, nothing here to learn. But let's just go over just to make sure, okay? So what we've done is created a grid pattern using lines of latitude that go across the globe. They actually form circles going all the way around the globe. And then lines of longitude that start at the North Pole and then down here at the South Pole. And we've created this grid, okay? But before we understand, we had to do this for a couple reasons. One is to show us where absolute location is. But another one is to explain what are some of the influences of weather and climate and so on. So before we do get more into latitude and longitude, let me talk to you briefly about the Earth and the Sun's relationship. Okay, so you can see that the Earth here is tilted on its axis. And that's because in our real life, the Earth is tilted in its relationship to the Sun. And as it rotates or spins, right, it brings us towards the Sun in the morning and then away from the Sun at night. It's not like we always say the Sun came up this morning, but it's the Earth is rotating towards the Sun. Okay, and you can see where these rays are hitting. They're hitting much more intensely right here in the center part of Earth. Okay, we're going to talk about that in just a minute. All right, so we know rotating gives us day and night. That's our spinning. And when we revolve around the Sun, and because we are tilted on that axis, that's what gives us the seasons. It takes both of those things. So imagine, if you will, that this axis was straight up and down. Okay, the North Pole is straight up. If it was rotating and revolving, we would not have seasons. Everything would be the same all year long. But it's because we're tilted on the axis and then we revolve around the Sun. That's what gives us our summertime with our nice long days, our wintertime with a nice long nights and that kind of thing, okay? All right, so we've got rotating gives us day and night, revolving along with the tilt on the axis, both of those give us seasons. All right, now let's get back here to lines of latitude going around the Earth. Equator is one that everybody knows, right? That's where we start at 0 and then we number them going either away from the equator going north or going south, okay? Also, the prime meridian is where we start with lines of longitude, and we either go to the west or to the east of the prime meridian, okay? And you can read about this information at your convenience. I just wanted to give you a basis here. All right, so we talk about lines of latitude or lines of longitude, and what they really are, the numbers that we associate with them come from the angles. So this is just a simple diagram taking a big bite right out of the Earth. So it's showing the very center of Earth right here. And this is where we get the angle. One line comes directly out, so that ray comes right out to the equator. And the other line, or the other ray of our angle, goes to the number that we have associated. This angle's measurement is this degree of latitude, okay? So you can look a little more closely at that. And there are some very significant lines of latitude that we need to talk about. So of course we mentioned the equator already, but then if you go up to 23.5 degrees north, you're at the Tropic of Cancer, and this would be almost to the very tip of Baja. And then we have the Tropic of Capricorn, that's 23.5 degrees south. Now, inside here, we commonly refer to this as the tropics. And we know the tropics to be very warm, year-round, still a lot of heat. Anytime you travel, we were in Panama, down here at 9 degrees north on Christmas Day one year and New Year's Day another year, and it was still 95 degrees. So year-round, they get those direct rays of the sun in this region. up in these regions further north or further south of the area, they get more oblique rays of the sun. So not nearly as intense as getting them directly. Okay, if you are up here, this should be 66.5 degrees north, 66.5 degrees south. I got this graphic off the internet. So go by these numbers over here. This is what I've put in. Okay, we've got the Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle. Now, of course, we have tipped the Earth directly up. So north is going straight up. We know that for a fact it's really tilted on its axis. But if you are at the Arctic Circle or further north in our summertime, you're going to get 24 hours of sunlight. If you're up there in the wintertime, you're going to get 24 hours of darkness. Okay, we were up in this area, we were at 70 degrees north. One summer, it was actually in August. And I thought, what do they mean 24 hours of sunlight? How light is it? So I was sleeping in a train car. I know, it makes me sound like a hobo. I'll show you those pictures later on when we're in Alaska. But so I opened the door at 3 in the morning after setting my alarm. And sure enough, it was pretty light out there. It was like twilight. Do you know what twilight is? The sun has just set, but it's still light out. That's twilight. And it was like that. You could read a book if you wanted to at 3 in the morning up in Alaska. All right, so those are the lines that are significant of latitude. And of course, those lines go all the way around the Earth. Let's take a better look at them. This is a world map. Whoops, hang on, sorry. And so here it's showing us where the equator is. I usually have my students do an activity, a mapping activity. I'm not gonna make you do that. But I do really want you to be comfortable and confident with latitude and longitude. All right, so here's the equator, and as we go north up to 30 degrees, we're almost to our area. About 33 degrees or 34 degrees north is about where Fullerton is. Okay, and here is the prime meridian right here, and we either go to the west or to the east of the prime meridian for these measurements of longitude. And we're over here at about 118 degrees west, meaning we have come west that far, north of the equator, west of the prime meridian, over in this region, okay? Let's take a little bit of more of a look of the United States. And this gives you an idea of we're at about 34, so we're just under this line right here of latitude. We're about in this area. So as you go further north, you would imagine that it's probably cooler and colder and so on, because you're not getting those direct rays of the sun. So latitude is a big influence of weather and climate. It's not the only one, but it is a big one. We'll talk about that probably next week. All right, so if we were on this, and I gave you this as an assignment sheet, I'm not gonna make you turn it in, but make sure you can do it, okay? One other thing I want you to notice is when you are writing these points of latitude and longitude, latitude always comes first, always, not just in this class or a geography class, but always, it always comes first. And if you do it first, you don't need the word latitude and the word longitude. If this just said 33 degrees north with a comma and then 112 degrees west, that's perfect. We know exactly how to find that place. Okay, now if you left off the N and just said 33 degrees, 112 degrees, that's wrong, right? Because you can, sorry, because you can, that is my IT guy. He was working with me just before this. He's calling back. So anyways, I'm sorry. All right, see if you can find these places on this map and know that you need that letter that says north or south or east or west. You've got to have that. And latitude always comes first. So as you're looking for a place, you start at the equator and either move north or south to find your place. And then you move either west or east of the prime meridian, okay, to locate your place. All right, and then just a final reminder here. Lines of latitude go across the globe. They measure in increments either north or south of the equator. Lines of longitude start at the North Pole and run down to the South Pole. They do not make a full circle, okay? They make a half a circle. They start at the prime meridian and either go west or east and measure in those increments. Just like this measures either north or south of the equator. And we put those both together and we form this beautiful grid that gives us what we call absolute location, telling us where a place is absolutely. Okay, think about it that way. Now, we don't use that very often. We do when we're mapping and that kind of thing, but typically we use relative location, and that's where we are in relationship to something else. So I live 5 minutes from Cal State Fullerton. I live about 30 minutes from the beach, those kind of things. That's what we usually use, but using latitude and longitude are very significant. All right, I hope this was a nice refresher for you. If you have questions, of course, we'll have our office hour Zoom meetings, and you can write me emails, you can ask me questions, you can look in your book, has a little area on this, you can look online, all kinds of things. All right, I'll see you later. Take care. I hope that was what I was to do. Stop videos. Stop videos. I was down here. What do I say? Stop recording.